Today we're going to be talking about bar graphs. And there are two main types of bar graphs. One that's known as the vertical bar graph, and the second is known as a horizontal bar graph. Now, a vertical bar graph has bars that align vertically along the vertical axes. In a horizontal bar graph, the bars align horizontally. The way I remember the difference between vertical and horizontal is that vertical is like jumping. So jump. The way I remember horizontal is like a sailor looking out on the sea, the horizon. So what's the big deal about bar graphs? They take numbers and they create visuals. They create images. They show them in the forms of bars. And the way they do this is they show how something changes over time, or they take pieces of information and compare them. And this is how. There. There are two parts to a bar graph. There's the vertical axis, and remember vertical is like jumping. The vertical axis is also known as the y-axis. Vertical. The y-axis usually takes numbers and shows the amount of what's being measured. And we also have the horizon, which is known as the x-axis. Also known as the horizontal axis. And the x-axis usually has numbers for the time period, or it has words of what is being measured. Here, what we're going to do is create two different graphs. We're going to say these graphs depict a boxing match. Along our horizontal, our x-axis, we're going to say this represents the number of rounds. So number of rounds. And let's pretend that this match, there are only 6 rounds. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, round 5, and round 6. And along our y-axis, our vertical axis, we have punches, the number of punches thrown. And we're going to put some values to this. Let's say this first line represents 20 throws. The second line represents 40 throws. So we're going up by 20 each time. The third line is 60 throws. And this fourth line up here is 80 throws. So 80 punches total. Now let's take a look at what this fight actually looks like. You know, in the first round, they're really getting to know each other and really getting a feel for the other person. Let's say they don't throw too many punches. They throw about 20 punches total. And in the second round, they've got to know each other a little bit, the fighters, and they get a little bit more comfortable and try some more punches. And they're somewhere in between 20 and 40 punches. Let's say they throw about 30 punches. And by round 3, they're very comfortable. They know what to do. They jump up to about 60 punches, almost 60 punches there. In round 4, they start to level out. So round 4, they're about 60. Round 5, a little less than 60. And round 6, a little more than 60. Now let's take a look at our next graph that we make here. So the bottom of graph 2 is still the same. Number of rounds in 6 rounds. But the vertical axis, instead of punches thrown, we're going to look at how many punches, let's make that green, we're going to look at how many punches actually landed. Punches landed. So how many times the athlete actually hit their opponent. But this time, each bar is only going to go up by 5. But we'll skip by 5. So this first one's 5, then 10, 15, and 20. And let's say about 1 or 2 punches actually landed on the other person. And in round 2, about the same. Not too many punches landed. Still about 5. Maybe we'll say there are about 5 total punches that actually landed. And in round 3, let's say it was a good round and they got about 7 punches in. In round 4, about the same. Then in round 5, a little bit less, probably back to round 5. And in round 6, maybe 1 or 2 punches. Now let's look at the 2 different graphs. One's looking at punches thrown, and the other's looking at the punches that actually hit the opponent.